Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. My name is Christina Dolan and I'm the Director of Marketing at Snapshot Interactive. Our two speakers will be giving some great insight on how to create the best nonprofit website, so you're in for a treat. If you'd like to follow along with the webinar, you can follow the hashtag KindfulSnapshotWebinar. We'll be tweeting some really great facts and some stats that our speakers will be sharing today. Now, I have the privilege of introducing our speakers. First is Matt Clark, Partner Development Manager at Kindful. Kindful is a company specializing in nonprofit CRM and fundraising software based here in Nashville. We also have Ben Rigsby, President and co-founder of Snapshot Interactive. Snapshot is a digital agency specializing in strategy, search, web, animation, and video. Welcome, Matt and Ben. I will hand it over to you guys.
Hey.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so to start, I think it's important for us to kind of look at the current landscape for nonprofit fundraising, just to provide a little context for why this is important. Beyond an effort to make your website prettier, there is evidence that shows why investing time and resources on your website and online giving will prove worthwhile. So let's look at some of the trends and data that have recently come out. So one fact here is that total giving is expected to increase by 4.3% in 2017 as compared to 2015. So a pretty big jump there. Another important one, traffic to nonprofit websites grew by 4% over 2015 totals. A few more here. Overall online revenue grew by 14%. Over 2015 totals, with monthly giving growing at 23% and web conversion up 8%. And I mean, this is huge. Experts have been predicting that future changes in giving habits would be occurring. They've been predicting this for a while, but these figures really could lead you to believe that the change is happening now or has really already happened in the past 2 years. A few more. On average, 1.2% of website visitors made a donation in 2016, an 8.3% increase in 2015. An average of 1.1% of website visitors join a nonprofit's email list, and nonprofits raised $1.19 per website visitor in 2016. And obviously that last stat is an average, but the point is, what are you doing to optimize your site to capture donations from all these visitors that you're getting?
And so as we look at building your best website, we work with clients hand in hand when it comes to getting their brand online. And at the core of it, it starts with digital strategy. And so the way we like to approach this is really starting to look at your goals. And so from a strategic standpoint, you'd be surprised at how many times we walk into a client and they forget to ask the simple question of, why do you want a website? What are you trying to get out of that website? And it's surprising on how much that answer can start to dictate the vision and the future that you have for putting your brand online. So some things that we work with clients on, or that we talk really heavily to clients about, are really understanding the competitive landscape. It's understanding what that landscape looks like. And a lot of times you might say that I don't have a competitor one for one, but the reality is you probably have somebody out there that's doing something similar to you. So understanding what kind of traffic they're getting, understanding, are they putting dollars behind SEM? What does that opportunity look like? And so it starts to really visualize those gaps that we might have opportunities in. It's understanding, who are we trying to target? So we all know who our buyers are. We all know who the people we're trying to reach, but starting to think through that and put yourself in their shoes and think through, what is the content, what types of content are they interested in? These are the questions that really start to help us figure out what we need to do when it comes to building a website. And then it's starting to understand, okay, well, are we trying to educate an audience? Are we trying to convert an audience? Are we trying to engage an audience? or are we just trying to provide credibility to our brand? And those 3 or 4 different selection points will start to really hone in on the design, the UI, the content drivers, and everything that comes to building that website. And so we really like to start with those questions so that we can design with that end in mind. If we're looking for an educational website, well, we know there's going to be a lot of content on there. And that content doesn't always have to come in the form of written content. It can come in the form of video content, infographics, interactive content, everything from that standpoint. But we know that there's going to be a lot of content on there. Conversely, if we're really going after conversions, what we're really paying attention to is how do we get forms on that website, how do people flow through that website, and how do we drive those conversions, which is a little different than loading the website up with a bunch of educational content. Another opportunity is you want to provide credibility to your brand. You want, when people interact with you out in public or over the phone or through email, and then they go to your website, for them to feel like this is a legitimate brand, that this is exactly what I thought it was going to be. And in that situation, you're probably looking for larger imagery, imagery that is talking about you, your mission, and who you are. So just some opportunities around that that really start to help us think through why we want the website, and then how do we design so that we can achieve those goals and those outcomes from the get-go. And so through the years, we have seen some successful use cases of content and elements of a website that we thought would be very useful to share. A lot of times we will try to create an experience where people are sitting forward in their chairs, engaging actively in your brand, versus sitting passively back in their chairs and just watching the story unfold. And video is one of these great vehicles that really helps us achieve that end. There's a couple of different ways that you can use video. You can use videos to explain who you are and what you're about. They're a great mechanism, I should say, for really getting the functions out of the way and starting to play up the emotions. And when we're talking about nonprofits and our missions and our goals and the people that we want to engage, we really want to, yes, talk about the functions of why we're doing or what we're doing, but we really want to hit on why we're doing what we're doing. And video is one of these things that can just cut through the clutter really quickly and make that happen. You can gain awareness for your cause. You can inspire those around you to donate or give their time and energy by getting involved. You can show impact, these things that we as marketers just love, statistics, showcasing the wins with case studies or year-end or annual reviews. Live event coverage. You can expand your audience. You can expand your funnel even by offering live opportunities. And then, of course, with training and onboarding new employees, there is a great efficiency to be had when it comes to creating your message once and then deploying that across many different mediums. So video is a great opportunity for us that really allows us to convey the emotions behind what we're doing. Now, of course, there's different ways that you can use content, and just hanging on video here for a second. Video is a situation that a lot of people have never done before, but a lot of people have used video, and we are really big on creating that content and using multiple ways to deploy that content. And so creating a video doesn't mean just having to prop it up on your website, but you can use some of that supplemental video as a homepage banner video to really engage that audience in your brand. You can also use it as a social media cut down that you've got on a social media platform that you're driving traffic now to a landing page. And that landing page is geared to convert that audience in some form or fashion. Maybe it's a donate, or maybe it's just a sign up for a volunteerism. So there's a couple of ways that you can really utilize video in different ways. The same thing is true when it comes to infographics and content of the like, interactive content, that you can put that stuff out on social, or a truncated version of it, I should say, and drive that traffic back to a landing page, ideally behind some sort of form, so that you can take that contact information and follow up with them appropriately. So just some great use cases of how to use video from that standpoint. We always like to talk about case studies, especially in these situations. And And looking at people that we've worked with, I would say that Tennessee SCORE, the State Collaborative on Reforming Education, is a great nonprofit that uses their website to do a multitude of different things. And that is very much awareness around their cause. Their cause is all about improving the state of education throughout Tennessee. And so you can imagine they're going after, or they're trying to engage teachers, they're trying to engage parents, students even, and lobbyists. So they've got 4 different audiences that they're trying to interact with. And they do a great job of segmenting out their content, trying to make it predictive to the audiences that are coming there. And it started with just a simple question of, okay, who are we talking to and what do we want to say to them? You know, what we say to parents is slightly different than what we say to educators, which is slightly different than what we say to lobbyists. So how do we create these paths for these individuals to go down to where the content makes sense? Video is at the core of their strategy, is one of those situations where everybody can understand the idea of improving education, but when you see it happen, when you see the growth path of a kid going through K through 12, when you see that, it just makes a world of difference. And so video is one of those ideas and one of those vehicles, as mentioned before, that really conveys those emotions. So tnscore.org, check them out. They're a great example of how you can utilize web to the fullest. When we're looking at actually putting content on a website, you know, we absolutely want to talk about who we are and what we do. And highlighting your mission is incredibly important. You can do that through video, you can do that through content, but you're probably going to want that on the homepage of your website in some form or fashion. We like to have that as close to above the fold as possible, just so it's right there. And of course you want it for SEO reasons and all of those. But when you're talking about your mission, you probably have already got this defined. But when it comes to the web, we want it to be very succinct. So we want to try to get that down beneath 10 words if possible. If it's longer than 10 words, it's probably an opportunity to just revisit that and see is there an opportunity to cull it down. But really trying to make it succinct is key here. And so aligning that with imagery, with video, around it, but absolutely highlighting your mission in a written form above the fold is a critical component to an effective website.
Yeah, and another piece is obviously making sure your website is streamlined for fundraising. I think one of the paths that Ben mentioned that is very important to to cultivate on your website is that path for directing traffic to your online fundraising. So with that, it's important to optimize your site so for online donors, they're used to modern optimized online shopping experiences like Amazon.com, and you want to make sure that you are not taking your visitors from a really well-designed website to a very clunky, bad donation experience. So you want to make sure there's simple interactions, consistent design when they're jumping from the website to the donate form, obvious calls to action, and sticky calls to action. Those are clear and straightforward, and you're not overwhelming the visitor with multiple calls to action that either are just going to distract them or maybe not be pertinent to the path that they were on. And make forms easy to fill out. Another thing is really building a complete online donor experience. Things like always including a recurring gift option. It's cheaper to retain donors than to acquire new ones. And giving donors the option to fund processing fees is just another small way to help them interact with your website. It's something that a lot of online fundraising tools like Kindful offer. You definitely want to make sure that your donate form is secure and that your donor knows it's secure. It's a small thing that really can make a big impact. And the last thing here is to make sure that the online donation is not an end in itself. Realize that as a part of donor engagement, the donation is just really an introduction for you to be able to get to know your donor. So make sure that you're following up with emails and thank yous, and keeping them updated with what their donation has achieved. This is something that an online donor database such as Kindful can help you track and maintain those interactions. So make sure that you're really using a donation as a cultivation tool in itself. A case study to look at is 20leaders.org. This is a site that uses Kindful, or an organization that uses Kindful for their donation experience and for their donor management. One thing that we love about this is that they're using our Kindful Donate plugin, and for frictionless online donation, it's a way to keep a donor on your domain, and a very simple and easy to fill out form that keeps people engaged and on the path.
And so one thing that is always top of mind is, what does our experience look like on anything other than a desktop? And in today's world, mobile phones are just an extension of who we are to so many different individuals. We're always on them. So we really stress building in a grid-based framework. And if you've never heard of that term, essentially what that is a mobile-first framework that allows everything to be responsive pretty much right out of the gate without you having to do a ton of work. So if you're looking for online templates or a way to get started with building a website, you just want to make sure that a responsive-based grid framework is part of that template. Two of the most popular ones that we see are Foundation and Bootstrap. They're by far the most popular ones out there. But again, you want to make sure that everything is mobile optimized. I think that we could all agree that a large percentage of our traffic is coming through a mobile experience, and especially you want to look at that experience from an optimization standpoint. It's going to be very difficult to get somebody into the realm of 2,000 pages when they're on their mobile phones. It's probably not going to happen as harmonious as you would want it to happen. So it's thinking about, what does the navigation look like on that mobile device, and then what does that experience look like from beginning to end. And one thing that we really try to pay attention to is one, the video capabilities on a mobile phone, and then two, the forms on a mobile phone. You want those forms to be a little chunkier, you want them to go across the full width, and you want to really try to get those inputs down to 4 to 6 inputs at any given time. Especially when you're trying to accept donations on a mobile phone, you want to try to streamline that experience, because you might imagine they're asking for first name, last name, email address, phone number, city, state. Then let's move on to the next part, which is credit card information. So that experience can kind of get out of whack, especially if you're on the run and on a mobile phone. So really trying to take a critical look at what are the fields that are necessary to get them to the next step in this process, be it a donation or be it just a lead from a volunteer or a contact. So mobile is one of those things that absolutely needs to be at the forefront of your conversation when looking to build an effective website. Now, once you get that website up and going, there's always an opportunity to improve. We would say this is the same for our website or any website out there. This is just an evolving process that we need to know is probably not going to come to an end, but it's just going to hit a new beginning at every stage in the process. So once you get that website up, it's time to start looking at some opportunities around SEO. And SEO, for a lot of people, this is a dark art. It's one of these things that is just unclear. A lot of people don't know what it is. A lot of people are, how do we see results from this? And the easiest way that I use to explain this, especially when looking at SEO versus SEM, which is slightly the same in the term of search, but different in the tactics. SEO is your long-term strategy. It's your long-term investments, right? I mean, it's going to take a few months for it to pay off, and you're going to feel like you are putting energy into this. You might putting a little bit of money into this, and really what are the results that you're getting from it. And SEM is something a little different, where it's short-term pops. You're actually spending money with Google, Yahoo, or Bing, and you will start to see activity almost overnight. But SEO is so critically important to the health of your brand online. It is the way Google will rank you. It is the way Yahoo and Bing will rank you, and even beyond ranking you, but determine the health of your website and where you fall in those search parameters. So some things that you really want to look for are the keywords. I mean, these are the simple things that you can just check off your list as you're going through this. Every page needs a title tag. Every page needs a description. If you're using a platform like WordPress or something of the like, this becomes a pretty easy experience for you to create this. But everything needs a title tag, everything needs a description, everything needs keywords. And then you absolutely want to install something like Google Analytics on it. Google Analytics is free to you, but it helps you understand the search patterns. It helps you understand the flow so that we can see, is our navigation working the way we wanted our navigation to work? Are our users getting into the buckets that we wanted them to get into? Or where are they bugging out in our process, and how can we start to make improvements along the way? Again, there's no end to this. It just starts to provide very insightful information that we can continue to optimize as we grow. One thing that a lot of people this is a very popular thing, A/B testing, but a lot of people are almost fearful of what this looks like. And there's a great service out there. Optimizely is who we use, and they do a fantastic job at this. But A/B testing is really us making small modifications to our website after we've gotten some data from it, from a Google Analytics per se, that makes us start to ask the question of, well, not a lot of people are hitting that donate button. And I wonder why a lot of people aren't hitting that donate button. Is it because the color isn't the right color? Is it because the placement isn't in the right placement? How can we adjust certain things here or there? And so a tool like Optimizely will help you do live A/B testing, where you can say, well, maybe I want this button to be in the top right corner with no background color behind it. And maybe I want to show this in the top right corner with a green background behind it to attract the attention, because maybe that's a different color than we've got on our website. Well, Optimizely will help you and guide you through that process so that 50% of your audience sees it with no background in the top right, and the other 50% see it with the background in the top right. And so it really starts to help you increase your analytics throughout this process. And what I would say is this whole mantra of if you build it, they will come, that's just no longer the case. So SEO and A/B testing and the things that come along with search, just like mobile, absolutely needs to be in the forefront of the conversations as you're building your website, because you want to build it to be healthy, to be sustainable, and to be found, most importantly.
And once you have this beautiful new website up and running, it's also important to realize and recognize the necessity to have good back-end tools to also help you accomplish your goals. As I mentioned before, definitely don't let that donation be the end of your engagement. There's a lot you can learn about your donor and about their donation that will help you retain, replicate, and upgrade your donors. So make sure you have the tools in place, like a reliable CRM, that can help you capture and analyze this data. So some of the key takeaways today that we hope that you have. One is giving trends are changing and already have changed. Two, a good website doesn't just look pretty, but it's optimized to drive visitors through an experience crafted to drive them towards desired engagement. Three, clarity in messaging and calls to action are very important. Four, continue to test and optimize your site and use new data to your advantage. And five, don't forget to optimize for mobile. There was a recent study by AppPay that reported that mobile giving is increased by 205% last year alone. So definitely make sure you are optimizing for mobile. Ben, any other key takeaways that you would add?
No, I think this is good. I always stress trying to find the purpose behind the moves that we're making, and I think a lot of what we discussed today really starts to put that under the light.
All right.
Great. All right. If that's everything you two have, thank you, both of you, for being here today, and thanks everyone for listening. If you want to find out more about Kindful, you can go to kindful.com, and if you want to find out more about Snapshot, feel free to go to snapshotinteractive.com. Thanks.